Okay, so we're diving into Sarasota real estate today, and looks like things are heating up over there.
Yeah, definitely some interesting movement happening. We're seeing it in the numbers.
Right, from what I was reading, it seems like mortgage demand has really jumped up recently.
Absolutely. And some solid reporting on that. CNBC had a piece out on it, and then Michael Graf over at the Graf Group chimed in as well.
I always appreciate his insights. He's got a real pulse on the Sarasota market.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's got everyone buzzing? I mean, the core driver here, it seems to be the drop in interest rates.
Right, that was pretty significant, wasn't it?
Down to 6.73%. That's the lowest we've seen since last year, at least in Sarasota.
Okay, so that's the headline. Lower rates, more demand. Pretty straightforward, but I think we need to dig a bit deeper here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems simple on the surface, but there's always more to the story, especially when you're talking about a market as dynamic as Sarasota.
Right, like what's the real takeaway here for someone on the ground? Whether they're thinking about buying or selling, how should they be interpreting this shift?
Okay, so let's break it down first off. The lower rates, well, that's bringing a lot of potential buyers back into the market, people who might have been sitting on the fence, waiting for a better moment.
Makes sense. They were probably holding out hope for rates to drop a bit more.
Exactly. And now that they have, well, it's creating a sense of urgency or maybe opportunity, like, hey, maybe now is the time to jump in.
I guess it's a classic case of how these big economic forces, like interest rate changes, they trickle down
Yeah.
and have a real impact on a local market.
Yeah, and we're seeing it in the numbers too. That 20% jump in mortgage applications that CNBC reported. That's a pretty clear sign that buyers are getting motivated.
20%, that feels like more than just a little bump. Is that a typical reaction to a rate drop, or is there something more specific to Sarasota at play here?
Well, lower rates usually do lead to a surge in demand. But yeah, a 20% spike, that does suggest there might be some other factors specific to Sarasota that are amplifying things.
Like, what are you thinking?
Well, for one, it could be that we had a lot of pent-up demand. People were just waiting for these more favorable financing conditions. They wanted to buy, but they needed rates to come down first.
So this drop was like the trigger they were waiting for.
Exactly. And then we'll also have to factor in Sarasota's overall appeal. It's a desirable place to live. So any improvement in affordability is going to get magnified in a market like this.
Right. It's not like people are hesitant to live in Sarasota. They just needed the numbers to work a bit better.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see if inventory levels can keep up with this heightened interest. That's another layer to this whole thing.
Right. So let's talk about what this means for buyers.
Hmm.
You're in Sarasota. You've been keeping an eye on the market. What's the main signal you should be getting from all of this?
The biggest signal is that your buying power just went up. With that 6.73% rate, you can potentially borrow more money or afford a slightly more expensive home than you could have before.
It's like an instant discount on the cost of borrowing.
That's a great way to put it. So, yeah, the math is literally different now than it was just a few weeks or months ago.
Okay, so it's not just a feeling. It's a tangible shift. But does that mean buyers should be rushing out to open houses like right now?
I wouldn't say rushing, but definitely acting with, a sense of informed urgency. This uptick in applications, it means more buyers are going to be competing for the same properties.
So you don't want to miss out because you were dragging your feet.
Right. So if you've already gotten pre-approved, you know what you're looking for, then yeah, this might be the time to really ramp up your search and be ready to make a move when you find the right place.
Because who knows how long this window of lower rates will last.
Exactly. Especially if demand keeps climbing, those rates could jump back up.
Right, so buyers are seeing more affordability, but also more competition. What about the flip side? What about the sellers in Sarasota? How are they impacted by this?
Well, for sellers, this surge in demand is generally good news. More motivated buyers out there looking for homes means they're more likely to get offers, maybe even multiple offers, and that could lead to a faster sale at a better price.
So if you've been thinking about selling your Sarasota property, is now the time to strike?
The current conditions are definitely pointing in that direction,
Yeah.
with more buyers actively searching. If your home is well prepared, priced right, it stands a good chance of attracting a lot of interest.
Sellers might have a bit more leverage now than they did when things were slower.
Yeah, potentially. And that's where a group like the Graf Group, those local experts, they come in really handy.
Right. We mentioned them earlier, and their insights seem particularly relevant here. What kind of guidance are they offering folks trying to navigate this market?
Well, they're all about that local perspective. They're keeping a close eye on what's happening in different Sarasota neighborhoods. They know where the demand is hottest, what types of properties are really moving.
And they can translate that into personalized advice for both buyers and sellers.
Exactly. Help them tailor their strategy, because it's not a one-size-fits-all market, even within Sarasota.
Right. You've got your luxury waterfront properties, your family homes,
Yeah.
different dynamics at play.
And that's where the local expertise really shines. They can spot those micro trends and help you capitalize on them.
And I imagine they're also armed with all the latest market data.
Oh, yeah. They're doing the deep dives on sales trends, inventory levels, pricing dynamics, all that crucial stuff that you need to make informed decisions in a market that's constantly in flux.
So for sellers specifically, what are they emphasizing right now?
I think they're really stressing the importance of strategic pricing and presentation, with more sellers likely jumping in now trying to catch this wave of demand, making your property stand out is key.
So you've got to really nail that first impression.
Exactly. Professional staging, high-quality photos, targeted marketing.
Well,
You got to grab those buyers' attention.
and on the buying side, how are they helping those who are entering a potentially more competitive environment?
Well, having an experienced agent in your corner can make a huge difference, especially now. They can help you find properties as soon as they hit the market. They know how to navigate multiple offer situations, how to negotiate effectively.
So they're like your advocate in the trenches.
Yeah, and their deep knowledge of the local market that can give buyers a real edge, especially when things are moving fast.
It's amazing how this drop in interest rates has really shaken things up in Sarasota.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how those bigger economic trends, they have these ripple effects and create real opportunities and challenges on the ground.
It's that interconnectedness.
Yeah.
What's happening nationally plays out in these local markets in fascinating ways.
Absolutely. And it just highlights how important it is to stay informed and, keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening both locally and nationally.
So let's sum this up for our listeners in Sarasota. If you're thinking about buying, well, this dip in rates could be your chance to get in at a more affordable price. But you've got to be prepared for some competition.
Yeah. Do your homework, get pre-approved, and be ready to act fast when you find that perfect property.
And for those considering selling, this surge in demand could be a real boon. You might get more interest in your property, potentially better terms.
So if you're even thinking about it now, might be the time to connect with a local expert like the Graf Group. Talk through your options and come up with a strategy that'll get you the best results in this hot market.
It's all about making informed decisions, understanding the current landscape and then taking the steps that align with your goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Sarasota real estate market, I'm leaving you with this question. Given everything we've discussed, the lower rates, the increased buyer activity, what specific steps are you thinking about taking if you're considering buying or selling in Sarasota?
Lots to think about for sure. And hey, the market's always evolving, so staying informed is key.
Thanks for breaking it all down with me today.
Happy to do it. Always enjoy these conversations.
Until next time, folks, happy house hunting.
And happy selling.